I was 24 at the time. She was 22. And so it's already a scary situation. At the same time, a lot of our friends weren't in that same era we were in. Even though our friends were there emotionally and could support us, they didn't really understand or get the true grasp of what we were going through in the early years.
What's up, dads? This is the Rise and Dad podcast, a podcast in perspective on life as a dad from dads who are intentional about their fatherhood. I'm your host, Kevin Delro, and we're in season 2. We made it. Thank you for everyone who's been along for season 1. If you've been there since day 1, thank you for being here. If you're brand new, we talk to a lot of awesome dads, and we're going to continue to do that. And thanks for joining us. So I'm really honored to have today's guest because he is actually the first friend of mine, first person that I could call a really good friend to have a kid. And I really saw fatherhood early on with him. And he works for the city as a commercial driver for waste management. He drives really big trucks. And the most important part of that is that he's a dad to a 13-year-old sweet young lady. So I'm really excited to welcome Josh to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're like, I don't know if you knew this, but actually you probably did because we were so young, but you were like the first friend that I ever knew that even had a kid.
Yeah, I know.
Because I was at your wedding, and like even that felt like soon. That might have been my first friend's wedding that I went to. Like you were like the first of everything. All right, Josh, let's get started. Tell me about your kids.
Okay, yeah. I have one daughter. Her name's Ava. We call her Ava Lynn. Lynn's her middle name. We throw that around a lot. She's 13 years old, thriving competitive dancer right now.
Yeah.
She's started as she was really young in dance. As she's blossomed through the years, she's just thriving through it and doing so great. So she does that. So that takes up a lot of her time through the weeks with school. And
you're like a taxi driver for her.
Yeah, a lot of the times my wife takes a bulk of the load.
There you
go.
But you got to give her props because she's probably going to be watching this, right?
Yeah.
Props to mom. Yeah.
Yeah, so she does take a bulk of the load for stuff like that, but we try to balance it out with my days off and helping out in that way. But yeah, just dance, school, getting older.
Sure.
You know, she's in her teenage years now, dealing with all those kind of...
everything that comes with being a teenager.
Yeah, just everything that comes with growing up and just going through that kind of transition, dealing with that. So that's what's going on in our house right now with our daughter, yeah.
What have you and your wife talked about this new phase of teenage years and what you're about to get into?
Oh, yeah. Me and my wife, we'll have numerous conversations at night once we're getting tucked into bed and we're thinking about everything, especially if we've had a really stressful day with Ava or something might have happened at school or Ava wants to come talk to us about something. We're like, man, she's not our little girl anymore. She's like growing up into this young adult.
Yeah.
And me and Jessica have conversations about this is going to happen fast. She's going to be going through this transition fast because time just seems like it slips away from you when they're such a little kid until they grow up into their adolescent years.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like I feel like we have to love all the moments like in the moment, right? Like when we're here, but then you think about everything that's coming and it's just so fast.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, we're like going to talk about boyfriends and stuff like that.
Me and my wife were talking about that the other night. We were sitting there. Our daughter just turned 13, so her birthday was last weekend.
Yeah.
And so we had this she didn't want to throw a party or have anything like that. She came to me and my wife and she said, all I want to do is go to a Mariners game with you guys.
Oh,
just us.
That's sweet. Yeah.
I was like, you don't want to bring a friend? You don't want to have fun that way? And she's like, I just want it to be our family. And so that's what we did. We threw a little celebration at home and she had one of her good friends over, but we went and checked out the Mariners game together, and she had a blast. We had a blast as a family. Yeah, that was really cool.
That's really cool, man. I think that really speaks volumes for, like, you both as parents, honestly. When my daughter's 13 and she has her birthday and she, like, the only thing that she wants to do is hang out with me and my wife.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I could only wish that my daughter at that age just being, like, I would think she probably wants to go hang out with her friends. But
Yeah.
she says that now where she'll be like, oh, let's just do family vacay. Let's do all this stuff. But she's 4.5, right? She doesn't really know what
Exactly.
else. And so I think that's a really big win for you, that like her like best day, like the way to spend her best day is like with mom and dad. That's cool.
Yeah, no, we love it. We love it. We love that she wants to spend quality time with us. She
Yeah.
wants to do those fun things with us because sometimes kids just want, especially as they get older,
Yeah.
they want to shy away from their parents a little bit.
Sure.
They want to,
Yeah. That's
they
natural.
Wanna, they want to have their own independence and stuff. And what she does, we promote that with her, but she loves like spending time with family, having that family quality time. And me and my wife cherish it because, like we were talking about the other night, is man, her 13th birthday just came up. We were looking over pictures on the laptop and going through all the film and stuff. And we're like, I feel like this was just yesterday that we brought her
I'm
home,
telling
and
you.
they just transition so fast. So
Yeah. It's the saddest thing, like owning an iPhone and they give you memories. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, they give you these memories. I'm like, yo, that was literally like 4 years ago. I feel like I was just right there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh man, look at how good I looked back then. Man, like, you always look back at it, and it is so great to have those memories, but also looking back, like, where the hell did that time go?
Yeah.
I remember that like it was yesterday.
I know, and my wife does that with those memories. She'll like over Snapchat or like a
Sure,
text message. She'll
sure.
send me, and I'll look at it. And I'm like, man, like in real time when you look at it, you're like, that just feels like it was the other day that we
Yeah.
were doing that.
I know the other day you might have, for Ava's birthday, you sent me a photo of me and her.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it was like we were watching a game. I think we were watching a Seahawks game, and I'm holding her. She's all little now, or back
Yeah.
then, and I was like, "Holy crap!" That was I remember that day like it was yesterday too.
Yeah,
and whew, that might have been like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and that's what's funny about how you brought up that we've known each other for so long.
Yeah,
And like me and my wife, when we look back on those photos, we're so thankful that we have like people like you and
Sure.
our other friends that are close to us in our life that have been there through those moments.
Yeah.
Through Ava was young and then growing up, and now she's a teenager, and it's really thankful to have like close friends like that
Sure.
in our community, like with our family
Yeah.
structure too.
Yeah. One thing that I didn't understand then, because obviously you were so much younger. You had Ava when you were 24.
Yeah, I was
And I
24.
had my daughter when I was 34.
Yeah.
So I think that when we were younger and you had Ava, I didn't understand the level of commitment or like time and responsibility that went into that.
Yeah.
Like I was a 24-year-old. We were all, our group of friends, we were all 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like you would just be like, oh yeah, Josh can meet us out. Or we could go,
Exactly.
where are we going tonight? And what are we doing? And I don't feel like I understood that until I became a dad.
Exactly.
But like when you're that age and your friend has a kid, you're like, oh yeah, she'll be in bed or you can do it. But it's just not that easy. And
Yeah.
for me, I obviously didn't understand that until it happened to me. And I don't think that happens until people go through it themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
And so was that hard for you being like younger and friends want to go out? Like I said, we're 24 and 25. We're not thinking about diapers or sleep schedules
Yeah.
or things like that. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, me and my wife, super young. I was 24 at the time. She was 22. And so going into that, for us, it's already a scary situation. But at the same time, to your point, a lot of our friends weren't in that same era we were in. Like you said, it was me and my wife as together, because even though our friends were there emotionally and could support us like that way, they didn't really understand or get the true grasp of what we were going through, or certain situations that we would go through in the early years of having Ava. So it was hard in that sense, but at the same time, like I said, you guys would come over to every birthday party. You would come over to every barbecue, or so having that and made us happy in that way. But it was harder for us because I couldn't call
Relate,
you and be like, man, I'm dealing with this situation. Ava's going through this right now, or me and my wife are struggling because we have this kid and we're so young and dealing with this. And I looked for advice through older people that kind of were a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
And could give me a little bit of advice, certain situations that were happening and going on. But yeah, like it was hard having like really close friends because, like you said, we were super young and our friends are super young, and you're not in that same mindset. It's hard to do that, but
Yeah, for sure. I think that this level of empathy for parents
Yeah.
comes from being one yourself, right?
Exactly.
And so a great example of that is the classic crying baby on a plane.
Yeah.
When you're younger, you're like, God damn, I'm sitting next to this crying baby. Hell no, this is the worst. And now I have like empathy for parents. And if there is a crying baby on my plane, like I'm literally like cheering them on. I'm coaching them. Or I see them like flustered. It's just like, hey, don't worry. Like, you got this. We good.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be giving them side eyes and looks. But what I mean by that is it stems from that empathy because like you might have gone through it or you know what they're going through. Where
Yeah.
like when you were young, and you had Ava, like none of your friends group, we didn't have kids. We didn't know so we didn't have that level of, oh man, I get it. I see what you're going through. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree.
All right. So Josh, we're gonna go backwards a little bit
Okay.
because you have a unique story because you were adopted.
Yeah.
And father figures in your life were very different from what like a traditional family would look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us that story.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was adopted, me and my biological sister. Same mom, same dad. My dad, Dennis, he at the time ran a foster program that my mom was currently in. And going through her struggles and everything like that with substance abuse and everything like that, I think my dad saw that she's not going to be able to take care of these kids, like these two kids. Like my sister was a year at the time. I was newborn, about 6 months old, when my dad adopted us. And yeah, growing up, I never got that true feeling of having a mom and a dad and seeing the relationship like that. Even though my dad did the best he could raising me and promoting the right values and giving me a great education and preparing me for life that way. But when I became a dad, it was super unique for me and special because I knew I was creating my own bloodline at that point, having Ava. And
yeah, that's really great. And do you remember, I know Dennis, you call him Gramps.
Yeah.
But that's only because he's much older than what a typical father would have been to a newborn.
Yeah.
How much older, do you know how old he was when he had?
Yeah,
when he adopted
exactly.
you?
Yeah, he was around like mid 40s. He was
Yeah.
like 45, 47. So when I started growing up and becoming a little older, he was in his 50s, 60s. And and typically, like you said, people start having kids around like their late 20s, maybe early 30s, once they've established themselves. And so, yeah, I always called him Grandpa. All my friends around the area and in the community that knew him, Gramps, Grandpa Dennis.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Great
Great
man.
man. Great man.
Yes.
But on top of that, Dennis was older. He had this foster care set up. He adopts you and your sister. But essentially, he's an older single man.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a lack of that like true family dynamic. But where did you learn to create a family, be a great dad for Ava? Because examples of it, but you didn't really have a sense of tradition.
Yeah, exactly. And like it goes back to my point of in the home, I didn't have that mom, dad, traditional family inside the home that we lived in, but I had a tremendous amount of support through a mother figure, through my late Aunt Dixie.
Yeah.
She was basically like a mother figure to me.
Right.
She didn't live in the house, but I had a lot of support from aunts and uncles that way, and seeing what the right way, the wrong way about certain things, like growing up. But the one thing I took from it as being a dad today is, from my father, is just unconditional love. Like he was the type of person that would take the shirt off his back for someone or do anything for his kids.
Yeah.
And so looking back now as I'm older and having my own family and Ava's getting older, that's what I try to promote through her, is just she knows that daddy has unconditional love for you, through anything, like the good, the bad, because as they get older, there's gonna be happy times, but there's also gonna be bad, worse times as well. So tough times as well. So I just want her to know that no matter what, there's unconditional love from dad.
Yeah, I love that, man. Shout out Gramps.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yes.
Gramps,
yes.
Dennis, and Aunt Dixie.
Yes.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Yes, thank you.
So let's talk about, you guys were 24 and 22 when you found out. And I asked you about this before the show, and you said that you were, what was the word you used? You said scared and emotionally shocked.
Yes.
You're young, so tell me about those feelings that were happening.
Yeah, so me and my wife just got married, just got back from our honeymoon. It's we're approaching August at this time. We got married over Memorial Weekend in May, so we're approaching August, and I come home from work one day and she's not feeling well. She's saying maybe we should go get a test, see if that's the reason. So we go get a test and we see just a faint line. You know how like on those tests, and at the time it was like line, double line, faint line. And so we didn't know. We were like unsure. And so we were relieved at that point. Okay, no, nothing's going on. So then her cousin was like, no, you need to go get a digital test. Like you need to get a more accurate one. You need to take another one. And so I remember my wife did, clear as day, pregnant.
Yeah.
And so to your point, yeah, I'm 24 years old. My wife's 22, super young. Traditionally, people, they plan, they have a set of timeline that they want to go through before they have their kids and what's going to happen with it. When they do, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
We're young. We don't have a plan. We're scared. And so, yeah, at the very beginning, it was very emotionally scary, but I was happy at the same time. And I knew I had to be that support system for my wife because she was tremendously scared, especially being unprepared and being so young. We just got over the hump of the stressful wedding, all that stuff. And so we were like relieved that we could actually start enjoying each other and everything. But then now, boom, we got pregnant and we got to be there for this kid and we got to start this family together. I was scared, but I knew I had to be there for my wife. So I put on a brave face too at the same time and was like, everything's going to be all right, honey. We're going to get through this.
We got this.
We're going to figure this out, because you do have to be strong in that way, because there's no going back. Like this is happening.
Yeah.
And so I had that mindset too at the same time, but no, definitely scared, especially being so young.
Yeah. And you talked about the financial stuff, right?
Yeah.
So babies are expensive. Like,
Exactly.
it's just, I would always say, I would tell my mom about how expensive babies are and all this. And just talking about how, like, even diapers, you can't be like, look, today, don't take a shit. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
You can't not do that stuff. And that's expensive. So you don't want to be at that point where, oh God, we used another diaper. And so the financial burden is definitely there. And even more so as you're younger and maybe you're not even at the start of your like career or what you actually truly want to do at that age. Most people aren't. So you talked about how you went into grind mode, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about what you meant by grind mode.
Yeah, grind mode. So my thought process is being that young and not knowing how to be a father yet, knowing the ins and outs of how I'm supposed to be, especially being so young. I was not emotionally or mature enough yet.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I knew that in myself. Like I wasn't there yet, but I knew at the same time I had to be. I thought in my head, my wife's going to take care of this kid. I need to go into grind mode. I need to make sure financially that we have everything set in place for this baby and for all the other expenses just living over in this area and raising a kid. And so that was my thought process, that I just need to work. I need to do as much work as I can, grind as hard as I can, bring in as much money we can. And at the same time, when I was doing that, I was just burning myself out. And I knew I couldn't be there emotionally for my wife. Like my wife dealt with postpartum, like to the max. It was pretty bad. I'm 24 years old. I don't even know what postpartum is at the time.
Bro, I was 34 and I had no fucking clue what it was.
Exactly. I remember we had a couple conversations about that, and I told you about our situation. But yeah, Jessica, she had postpartum really bad. And even her, she didn't really even know what was going on. She just was like, my hormones are out of whack. But it went on for quite some time. And I, at the time, being so immature, I couldn't be there for her. I wasn't there for her.
You might not even know how to be.
And,
I know I didn't even know how to be.
And that was it. I didn't know how to be. So as I got older, as time went on, I learned those tools. Like I'm still learning. Yeah. It's a learning process, but that was a big thing for us because my wife was going through so much. Yeah. And just in my head, I was just focused on the monetary needs that we needed for the family.
Sure. There was other needs too.
But definitely there's other needs too. And I look back on it now, seeing that it's, you need that, but you also need to be a partner to your wife as well. Yeah. And that's what I've learned through fatherhood growing up, is you need to have those conversations. You need to, like, we're humans. So if I'm going through something, like my wife's probably going through something too, and you can't just brush it off. You got to have those deep conversations and build off that and figure out what's going on, because what I've learned is when you brush them off, they just build and build until you might have a small disagreement about something, but it turns into a huge one because all that stuff that you didn't talk about or get off your chest or kind of figure out just built up. And so that's what I've learned through the years.
Yeah, that's great advice, Josh. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm really glad that you brought up postpartum because we've talked about postpartum on this show actually quite a bit and with other guests. And I know it was a big deal in my life and my marriage. And I'm glad that my guests talk about it because it doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah.
And so I'm just happy that Rise and Dad, we're not ducking the smoke.
No.
Like we're talking about postpartum, we're talking about all these things, and it's like things that men don't often talk about. So I'm glad you brought that up because like it's so huge, and I know that for us, like it was a big, so like the baby and a newborn is something that happens, and there's things that you need to do, but often the hardest part is the postpartum and your relationship with your wife or your partner. Like I've said that on many podcasts before, where it's like the baby to some degree is like the easy part. You feed it, it sleeps, you burp it, and then like the hard part is like doing that with your partner, and you and your partner have lost sleep. You guys are both stressed, whatever else is happening. Like that's the hard part. And that's where the magic comes in, where you need to build that, and then everything else like becomes easier.
Yeah. And that was the thing. At the time, I didn't have the tools to learn how to build that. Or it was like my wife might have been dealing with a small situation, but it turned into this huge situation just because like of her hormones being out of whack and dealing with that postpartum. It's the stress I could only imagine just building. And I'm just thinking, what's going on? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with her. It's just I didn't understand it at the time. It was just something that I didn't know a lot about. And so I think it's great that you talk about it on the show, because even I'm through a number of years, me and my wife have had conversations about just her friends that have had babies, and they're all dealing with it. And they come and talk to my wife for advice too, because they're like, what did you do? What were some of the things that helped you with it? But it is a common thing that happens.
So if there's a dad right now going through that postpartum with his wife, what's your advice to him?
Oh, my advice would be like, just talk to your wife, ask her like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Know those kind of things, because a lot of times they might be dealing with this and they aren't sharing it. And like I said, like it just boils and boils until something blows up, because the amount of stress that's on them just builds until that one little thing you do or something happens, it just lashes out. So I would just say every day, ask your wife, like, how you doing? Especially after you bring a newborn home and, you know, you're dealing with the baby. You need to make sure your wife's taken care of as well too.
I love it. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for sharing that. All right, so Josh, I always ask all my guests about their approach to fatherhood.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear yours, especially since it stemmed from being so young. What was your approach? How did you do it?
Yeah, my approach to fatherhood, I think, is a little bit better now that my daughter's older, because I go back to when I was young, I didn't have really a direct approach. Like, I was just young, grind mode, figuring everything out, the everyday stuff. But I think now that I see Ava getting older, my approach is just being for her, there for her every day, letting her know that you can talk to Dad about anything. I don't care what it is. I want you to know that there's a safe place at home to talk about stuff, and for her just to be comfortable knowing, hey, my dad's there for me. He's got my back. Yeah. And having that kind of relationship with Ava is big for me, because I don't want her to be in like the dark in a sense about what's going on, but at the same time I want her to feel comfortable talking to Daddy or Mommy about anything. Yeah,
that's really good that you keep that communication alive. I feel just asking her questions every day and just like being open, it really like sets that up. Like you have to be intentional about talking about the little things to be granted access to the big things.
Exactly. And me and my wife talk about it all the time, is like, we want that open communication at home.
Yeah.
Especially with Ava. We want you to let us know what's going on, because there might be, it's a perfect example. The other day there was a tragic event at school that happened in the community of Ava's school that she goes to. And she just came home and she was like, I just was in class when they were talking about it and I just started crying.
Yeah.
And if she would have came home and was like emotional or shut off or crying and we didn't know, we would be thinking like, what's going on? What's wrong? But she just shares so much information with us, and it's great because it keeps us interested in her life as well at the same time.
Yeah, that's really good, Josh. And one of the things that I was going to add is that through season 1, I got a lot of feedback that viewers were like, you ask a lot of the questions, but we never hear like what your answers are.
Yeah.
And so for this one, I was going to answer my approach to fatherhood.
Okay.
And my approach to fatherhood is making sure that my daughter feels love and hears love.
Yeah.
And what that looks like is being repetitive with physically hugging and loving on her and making sure that I'm telling her all the time how much I love her and how that's not going to change. Right?
Yeah.
So I always say, you're my favorite kid in the world and nothing's ever going to change that. And I say it so much and she's, Dad, you always say that. I knew you were going to say that, but I always want her to make sure that she feels love and she hears love. And it's almost like this 3-prong approach where there's love, building confidence, and building support.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's always been my approach going through this from day one. I think that like a young little girl who feels loved, feels confident, and feels supported can really kick some ass in this world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I hope that she will. I am going to roll the dice on love, confidence, and support.
I love that. I love that.
So I always ask our guests about balance. And as a dad, sometimes you're balancing your job, your interests, being a great dad, being a great friend, right? Meeting up with friends and stuff. But how do you balance your life, your interests, and everything that you want to do in addition to being a great dad?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times for me, it's really easy to balance everything. My wife takes a huge load off me just with the everyday stuff with Ava and stuff like that. My wife, Jessica, and my daughter, Ava, they're my biggest cheerleaders. Like, they're always asking questions like, how was work today? Did you have a busy day? Or if I get home late, like, they're like, how's everything going? And especially, I just recently, a couple years back, started coaching middle school basketball.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing for me. My wife knows it. My daughter knows it. I love basketball. I love sports in general. And getting to work with the youth and building relationships that way has helped me with Ava too. Because even though she's a competitive dancer, that's a sport in itself. But she loves talking to me about what's going on with my team. What kind of plays are you running? What happened in the game? And so having that support from my wife and daughter, like just being involved that way, takes a huge stress load off of me with the other things that I have to deal with. And so it's easy to balance being a dad because I have that great support system at home with my wife and daughter.
Yeah, I think it's really unique too because you are coaching middle school basketball, but not your daughter.
Yeah.
Basketball. So a lot of times when we are coaching kids, it's because we got brought in because of our son or our daughter.
Yeah.
And so you are coaching kids that might know your daughter, interact with your daughter, whether they're on the boys team or the girls team, whatever that is. So to some degree, you get to be in her space, in her community.
Yeah.
And I think that keeps you guys closer, right? Because I don't think that she has breakdowns of players, but she knows these kids to some degree, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. So at the school that I do coach at, my daughter knows a lot of those kids because in elementary school, she went to school with a good number of them. So they're a lot older now, like in middle school. So she'll come to the games and she'll see a couple of them and she'll be like, oh, I know so-and-so, or I know so-and-so. Or when I play my daughter's school, she comes to the games and she's always...
You root for you or her school?
Yeah, no, she's definitely rooting for me, but she'll root and then she'll look, see if he was looking. But yeah, she gets so excited because even through the halls, people at her school will be like, oh, I saw your dad coaching. Oh,
that's
your
great,
dad's
man.
such a great coach. He does a great job with those kids, teachers maybe, or someone that kind of saw what was going on at the game. So she gets super proud of that too. And then she'll come home and just talk to me about it. And so that's awesome. I love it.
That's really cool, man. I can only hope that my daughter is one day proud of me.
Oh,
like
shoot.
that's so
Yeah,
cool, man. I
she
just love
will
that.
be.
Josh, we're going to go into this second round, which is like all of our questions that we typically ask guests. So one of them is the biggest challenge to fatherhood.
Oh man, my biggest challenge, I want to say now that Ava's older, is just patience. Like patience and understanding. She's transitioning through her teenage years now, and so there might be a certain meltdown, or she's just having her time, and patience and understanding, because sometimes I'll come home, be super tired, I won't be in the right headspace or something, and she might do something where I'm like, Ava, what are you doing? Calm down. But I need to take a step back and be like, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
And so that's my biggest challenge now. And I've gotten better at it, but even sometimes my wife will be like, Josh, she's not doing anything.
Yeah. So do you think that patience is harder now as she's getting into her teen years, or when she was a toddler?
When we first had Ava, a lot of people would always be like, because we would take her out to dinners and stuff like that and go to restaurants because she would just sleep. And a lot of people would be like, enjoy this now, because once she gets older, and I never knew what they were talking about, but now I understand it as she's becoming a teenager. It's like more attitude, more aggressiveness, not in a bad way, just that aspect of it. So for me, I think patience and understanding for Ava is more difficult now, and then patience and understanding to my partner when I was younger would be my answer.
That's a great answer. And honestly, one thing that I've learned so much about this podcast, talking to different dads, is that a biggest part of being a great parent is like being a great husband or partner.
Exactly.
Like, honestly, it's like the biggest part. And I would list that as one of my biggest learnings, was like becoming a parent actually made me learn how to become a better partner. Like,
exactly. And you have to be a great partner in order to raise great kids.
Hey, there you go.
They need to see that.
We're not raising mediocre kids.
Yeah, no.
Great. There you go. All right, best and worst part of fatherhood?
Oh my gosh. I'd say the best part is just seeing them grow, their progress. When you first had, like we were talking about earlier, is like we look back on those memories and we're like, I feel like that was just yesterday. And then you look back to today's and you're like, man, the progress, the growth, like how mature, how, much they've just grown so much through those years. I would say that. And then to the backside of that is them being grown and growing up. That's scary because there's a lot of stuff out there that they're not prepared for yet, but stressful on you, because your job as a parent is to get them ready, get them prepared for the real world. And that's what's most scary for me, like, is that position of Ava one day going off to college and like daddy's not really around to protect her that way. So that's what's scary for me.
Yeah, I think that's +1 to that being scary. You get to a point, at least not, the world isn't great everywhere, and people do not all have great intentions. Like, we know it. And so that to me is like such a scary and like, I guess, worst part of parenting, is like, I got to tell her what to be prepared for, what to look out for, and what's not great about this world. Where like right now, like everything's awesome and all dogs are amazing and need to be pet, right? And like every person is friendly and cool and deserves a hug. And it's just, the worst part to me is like having to break it down to her, being like, look, not everybody is like loving and cares so much about you, right? And not every dog wants to be pet, like all those type of things. That's hard for me to like, clouding her vision of this like perfect world. And of course we have to be realistic, it's not a perfect world, but man, she has such this like beautiful perspective on life and people and things, and like having to be like, slow down, it's not all that way.
It's hard, it's tough with that, especially when they're younger. Once they start getting older and they start seeing more stuff and they're around that kind of stuff, because nowadays, like all these kids, like I think you talked about it in an earlier episode, they got these tablets, they got these iPads, iPhones. We try to do so much, like with parental settings and privacy, and keep them away from it, but there's always a way they see it or they get access to it. And I think as they get older, they start shying away from, this isn't really how it's supposed to be, or this isn't how the world is. So I agree to your point.
All right, and the last one is, I always ask about advice, but for you, being a young dad when you first started, I'm going to say, Give one piece of advice to your younger self.
I think if I was talking to myself now, the advice I'd get is to take it slow. Like, nothing has to be a rush. Like I said, like in the beginning of my early years, I was grind mode. We got to do this. I got to work, which took a lot of time, quality time, spending with my family, spending with my daughter. And so I look back on it now as just, nothing has to be fast paced. Everything happens for a reason. We're going to flow into this together. But me and my wife always say, especially when we were younger, it's like we rode the wave. Like we were on this wave, like high times, low times. But at the end of that, like we pushed through. And I would just say enjoy those moments because, like, especially in my situation, my daughter's 13 now. It's like time just that goes away.
Love it, Josh. And our last segment is Rising Dad's Choice. So you get to choose this or that. You want to do the morning routine or the night routine?
Oh, I would do night routine, a little bit easier, especially now that my daughter's older. She's got to get her hair done. She's got to get all this stuff done that my wife does and helps her out with. So I would say night routine.
You'd rather eat out together or eat in?
Oh, we were just talking about this the other night. Our favorite thing to do is eat out, especially now, like how things are. Me and my wife were talking about this. It's like we go to the grocery store, obviously get groceries for the household, but we go to the grocery store and be like, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? You want steaks or you want a burger? You go and buy all that stuff. It's basically the same price as just going out to eat. Yeah. But then you don't have to do the dishes. You don't have to do the cleanup. And so like our favorite thing is, I would say, eating out.
Newborn or teenager?
Oh man, newborn. Newborn. Yeah, teenager. Yeah, just especially being a dad and caring about your daughter so much, especially having daughters. Like, yeah, I would say newborn. Yeah.
Last one is whole family out or one-on-one time?
Oh, I'd say whole family out. I do love our one-on-one times, especially like over this past sports season. Like me and my daughter like shared incredible moments watching the NCAA tournament, watching the Super Bowl together. But that family time is the best time we have. We have the most fun together as a family. Just when it's us three, me, my wife, and my daughter, it's like most fun. So I'd say family time.
That's great. And Josh, before I let you go, I always need to ask, in 20 years, if we were to ask Ava, tell us about your dad, what would you hope that she would say?
Man, when she's 20 years from now, I would hope she would just say he was always a loving, caring dad, did everything for me, was always there, and through the good times, through the bad times, and just fun dad. That's what my daughter says all the time, especially to her friends. My dad's the cool, young, fun dad, because I am the youngest out of like a lot of her friend group. Like they're a little bit older than us. He's the cool, fun dad. So that's a cool tagline to have.
I love that, man. And you know how it goes. Now that you said it, you have an opportunity to become that and continue to do that. So,
yeah,
awesome.
Exactly.
Hey, Josh, that takes us to the end of the pod.
Perfect.
Thanks for coming, man. I'm glad that we were able to hit on so much, like all the stuff with being adopted and your dad and just being young. Like we've learned so much, and we haven't really had this angle yet on the podcast. So I'm really happy that you joined us and you shared a lot of great moments.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here. What you're doing is awesome. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. That does it for the Rising Dad podcast. Like and subscribe. What's up, dads? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rising Dad podcast. We hope that you like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, and do all of the great things that help us continue to make great content for you.